We're here in Monte Carlo at the Rendez-Vous de Septembre. For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks. And I'm joined now by Waleed Jabsheh, who's the president of IGI. Waleed, welcome.
Thank you, Richard. Great to be here.
So we've been talking to a lot of the European and Bermudian reinsurers. You've got a slightly different perspective on the whole reinsurance and insurance industry. Can you tell us a little bit about your perspective of the conditions that we're operating in at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, our perspective is slightly different. We're not your typical large US or Bermudian or even European reinsurer. We're more of a DNF underwriter. 95+% of our book is direct and facultative. And we operate in a global environment. We write a multitude of classes, circa 25 classes and subclasses. So we see a different array and spectrum of landscape, depending on the territories that we operate in, depending on the classes of business that we're in. And for us, it's been a great run, really great few years. Since, the beginning of 2018, we've seen most of the areas where we operate in harden, with significant rate increases achieved across, many markets, and that's fueled our growth as a company. No doubt there's dislocation, continues to be dislocation in certain parts of the reinsurance and insurance arena. I think the market and the larger reinsurance players are coming to grips or trying to get to grips with, the volatility that exists. There's been a lot of sort of black swan events happening too frequently, it seems, over the last few years with COVID, with the war in Russia, Ukraine. So there's the landscape is changing, the risk landscape is changing, the exposure landscape is changing. Of course, we can't ignore climate change, the frequency of nat cat events over the last several years as well. So you are seeing definitely some dislocation there, and a tougher stance being taken by some of the reinsurance players and retro players.
So that's an interesting point to pick up on, because you're obviously here as much as a writer of reinsurance, as a buyer of reinsurance. How does the changing reinsurance landscape conditions affect the decisions that you're making?
At the end of the day, Richard, it's, our market is cyclical. This is not the first time we go through a tougher time within the cycle. IGI's got a track record, for the last 20 years of delivering strong, healthy profits, building partnerships with our clients, but very importantly so with our reinsurers. There was no doubt, harder looks being taken at exposures, at portfolios by our reinsurers. As a buyer, I can tell you, it's been more challenging, definitely, in this year than it has been in previous years. But that comes as no surprise, and it shouldn't. We all, are experienced, in this field, and history tells you will go through times like this. I think what differentiates, and I think what the most important thing, especially the way we view it and the way we see it, is that we view our reinsurers as partners in the business. They help us grow the business, they help us develop it. We rely on them, and they are our partners in the business. And so when you build those types of relationship with your reinsurers, you can to a certain extent mitigate the volatility in some of their behavior, in a sense, and thus the volatility on your business. At the end of the day, again, the industry goes through its cycles, and we will react, to the changing dynamics within the market and the reinsurance landscape as necessary, as we always have done in the past, and we'll get, over the line, undoubtedly.
Well, it's interesting to hear you talk about history and to talk about cycles, because there's a lot of talk about a genuine hard market, and there are some people in the market who perhaps won't have experienced a genuine hard market before. So what sort of things should we be looking out for in those conditions, and what sort of surprises might there be?
I tend to disagree with that because at the end of the day we're all experienced. We've been through hard markets before. We've been through soft markets before. It seems it's been a while since we've been in a hard market, and I think this is maybe why you know uh, these questions are being tossed around. But somebody who has been in the industry for a decent amount of time will be in a stronger position to deal with those changing dynamics. I think it is definitely what you make of it. So different companies will take more advantage of the improving conditions than others, and I think it really boils down to who you are as a company, what you can achieve, and regardless of how hard or soft, the most important thing is that you maintain that discipline. You work within your capabilities. You understand exactly what they are, and you don't veer outside. Never bite off more than you can chew in this industry. Otherwise, it'll bite you back.
That's probably the soundbite, isn't it? In straightened economic times, how do people's attitudes to insurance change, do you think?
It's you've got to look at it, in my opinion, at the direct customer, because that's the person that ultimately needs to make priorities, set priorities, and undoubtedly we're going through tough times at the moment, financially. The average Joe is going to feel, whether it's the average Joe or the average business, they're going to feel the impacts of the current economic times. At the end of the day, our job, as insurers, as reinsurers, is to find that balance between providing a product to our clients that provides them with the coverage that they require at an affordable cost. Otherwise, we will be eliminating that market ourselves. It's not easy. I mean, it sounds a lot easier said than actually done. But at the end of the day, it just goes back to my previous point. Um, we all need to thrive in this world. As a business, you need to make money. Our clients, as businesses, they need to make money, and as a result, we need to find that balancing act that works for both sides. We've been in situations like this before, and we see ourselves in that situation again, and we will find solutions.
So there's another important constituent in the insurance and reinsurance sector, and that is the investor. You've had some reasonably recent experience of dealing with capital markets. What do you think the investor appetite for insurance risk is at the moment?
I mean, luckily for us, we went public right before really COVID hit. When the market was in a different, the financial markets and the investor sentiment towards the insurance and reinsurance sector were different. So we were able to get our transaction over the line and raise some capital to our balance sheet. I think the landscape has changed. A lot has happened since. And so, we mentioned the volatility earlier. I think the appetite for that volatility has reduced significantly. And as a result, I don't think you're seeing the investor community as excited about this space as they have been before. They're looking for stability, they're looking for security, they're looking for consistency, longevity, and I think those that can present those types of results, track records, will be the ones that the investor community, flocks towards.
Waleed, thank you very much indeed for joining us on AM Best TV.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Richard.
For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks.